The note on the counter said, "Back at 5. Gracie is napping. Bo knows." Her mother had written it and left it on the kitchen counter before going to a neighbor's, and Jess had come home to it and read it and thought, Bo knows what? Bo was a 7-year-old rescue beagle mix who had been in the family for 4 years. He was not, in any conventional sense, a trained dog. He had a solid sit and a functional stay and a come that worked most of the time, and that was the extent of his formal curriculum. He had, however, developed over 4 years a comprehensive, unofficial understanding of the family structure and rhythms that sometimes felt, to Jess, more sophisticated than anything she had deliberately taught him. She was a nurse practitioner. She trusted observed data. Bo had given her a lot of it. The first thing she did when she got home was check on Gracie, who was 18 months old and asleep in her crib in the way that 18-month-olds sleep, completely, deeply, with the total commitment of someone who has no ambivalence about unconsciousness. She looked fine. The room was fine. Bo was on the floor outside the nursery door, which was where he was most afternoons when Gracie napped. Jess went to the kitchen to put her bag down. She thought, Bo knows. She thought about the phrasing, the casual confidence of someone who had observed something she considered self-evident. She went back to the nursery. Bo was at the door. He was not in his usual position, which was lying down, relaxed. He was sitting. His posture was the posture of a dog that had transitioned from rest to alert and had not yet determined whether the alert required action. She looked at Gracie again. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Gracie's breathing was faster than it had been 3 minutes ago. Not visibly, not dramatically. This was not a change she would have registered by eye if she had not been looking specifically. She was looking specifically because Bo was sitting instead of lying down, and because her mother had written Bo knows, and because she was a nurse practitioner who understood the value of taking the observations of people with more time on their feet than she had seriously. She put her hand on Gracie's forehead. Warm. She got the thermometer 101.8. She called the pediatrician. By 6 o'clock, Gracie had been seen, and the developing ear infection had been confirmed, and the prescription had been filled, and Jess was home with her daughter, who was now medicated and cranky and would be better in 3 days. Her mother came home at 7 and said, "How was she?" Jess said, "Bo told me she was off." Her mother said, "I know. That's why I wrote the note. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard." She asked her mother what she had seen before she left. Her mother described it. Bo had been in his usual floor position outside the nursery, and then at some point in the afternoon he had shifted to sitting, and her mother had gone to check Gracie and found her still sleeping but warm at the temples. And she had decided this warranted attention but not emergency, and had written the note and left knowing that Jess would come home and read it and act on it. She said, "He's been doing this for a year at least. Every time Gracie gets sick, he changes position before I notice anything." Jess said, "You never told me this." Her mother said, "I thought you knew." She had not known. She had known Bo was attentive. She had not known the attentiveness had a specific and consistent pattern across illness events, a pattern that her mother had been observing for a year and had assumed was known information. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. She started watching more deliberately. She watched Bo's floor position outside the nursery on ordinary days, lying down, relaxed, the standard beagle configuration of a dog content to be present without being on alert. She watched it on the 3 subsequent illness events in the following 6 months and found the same pattern her mother had described, the shift from lying to sitting, the specific alert posture, the head orientation that was slightly more directed than his resting orientation. She noted it each time. She noted the interval between the position change and the temperature reading. The interval was consistently between 40 minutes and 2 hours. She thought about what the pediatrician had told her once, at a different appointment, about a different child. The window between fever onset and fever management is when the child is most uncomfortable, and when early intervention makes the most difference in comfort and in how sick they get. 40 minutes to 2 hours was a good window. It was the window Bo had been giving them for at least a year every time Gracie got sick. She updated her note-keeping. She added a column. Bo's position. She showed it to her mother, who said, "Yes, that's what I've been seeing." They compared notes. They were the same notes. They had been the same notes for a year, accumulated separately by two people who had both been watching and who had both assumed the other one already knew.